Hello, hello. So excited to be joined by three incredible women doing amazing work right here in San Diego. And we are here today to talk about tomorrow, which is May 21st, World Day for Cultural Diversity for Dialogue and Development. And I am joined by, again, three incredible women who are doing very important work both here in San Diego and beyond. So we're going to start with Rachel and Tristan, Rachel Alexandria and Tristan Higgins. For their work, I want to start off by having a conversation for the work they've been doing here at Hera Hub. We have a group, we call them sub-hubs. We have a group within our organization that Tristan and Rachel spearheaded back last summer called the Co-Conspirators Sub-Hub. So ladies, I'm going to ask you Tristan, I'll start with you. I want to ask a bit about how this came about and the work that you and Rachel have been doing for really almost the last year. I can't even believe it's been a year. And thank you both for your leadership here at Hera Hub.
Well, thank you so much, Felina. Like Felina said, I'm Tristan Higgins. My pronouns are she, her, and hers. And I am a member of Hera Hub, and we, along with Rachel, we work closely together in other matters. We were discussing, right after the George Floyd protests broke out, we were discussing our sort of feeling of powerlessness, right? What can we do? How can we act? What steps can we take? And the two of us thought it was important for Hera Hub, which is a really fantastic group of people, very like-minded people, to take a stand. And one of the ways that we decided to do that with Felina's support was to start basically a discussion group open to all members where we could talk about being actively anti-racist and holding each other accountable for that. And so the mission of the group is to welcome anyone who wants to join from within Hera Hub. And we educate each other. We sort of take turns educating each other on topics. We also have emotional check-ins. And it's really a very good opportunity for what's largely white women to process their collective guilt and grief and hold each other accountable. Obviously, we have members that are more than white, but we never ask any of our members to educate about their own experience. We are simply educating each other about the history of racism, the impacts of racism, and things like that. And let me stop there and let Rachel jump in, or Felina.
Yeah, thank you so much, Tristan, for setting the stage there. Rachel, what have these conversations and what has this group done for you over the last year?
Well, I really was excited to get together because I'm a new Hera Hub member. I joined about 5 months, I think, before we actually started this sub-hub, which is now called the Racial and Social Justice Sub-Hub. So it's even clearer for people what we're doing. So what I've really loved about it is the chance to have conversations that I think a lot of, I'll just say white folks, because I think I can speak more on behalf of white folks, that they feel uncomfortable having, that they don't tend to bring up, even if they are suffering from the injustice that's happening in their own way. So we wanted to provide a place to have these conversations. And what it does for me is really helps build a sense of community and solidarity with people who are not okay with the harms that have been caused and continue to be caused to Black people and other people of color. But they don't know what to do about it. And so that's the leverage point that Tristan and I came at was, let's not just read a book and talk about it, because that doesn't feel active enough. It doesn't feel engaged enough to me. And I had just participated in a Black educators like challenge on Facebook, where the first thing they did was say, okay, you all are going to go learn about this, go educate yourselves and come back and talk about it. And I thought how great that is when we have to, thanks, Kimball, when we have to take the ownership to self-educate. And when we're all learning together and there's that experience, I feel like it helps people feel like there's something that they can learn how to do. and it's not just a feeling of helplessness. So that's what it gives to me, is this joint feeling of, we don't know how to fix everything at all, but at least we can do something, and we can educate ourselves, and then hopefully continue educating those of us around us who might have had the same mistaken beliefs or ignorance.
Absolutely.
And Felina, can I just add,
Please.
it's a lot more than just talking as well, right? We're educating each other. We have demonstrated for causes that we care about. We have done letter writing campaigns to help get out the vote in Georgia, for example, not for any particular candidate, just on its face to get the vote out. We've helped each other to raise money, and we've learned about a lot of substantive topics like redlining, educational discrimination, the history of slavery. I mean, I think our first topic, Rachel, if I'm not mistaken, was about the police, really the concept of defunding the police, unpacking that, helping a bunch of people who were kind of scared by that concept, understandably, given our own history and culture, to really understand what that means. And so we've really, talking is excellent, and we do a lot of that, but it's also been wonderful to find opportunities to do things together.
Yeah, absolutely. So Dhalia, I want to come over to you next. I know you've been a part of a lot of these conversations at Hera Hub. I'm going to ask what that impact has been on you and having these dialogues, and then also talk about your own work, of course, that you're doing professionally, some of the leadership. I know you have a book club. There's a number of things that you're doing. And then Tristan and Rachel, I'm going to swing back around after to ask you to talk about what you're doing professionally as well. So Dhalia, take it away.
Thanks, Felina. Yes, so I've been part of this the Sub Hub for I'm going to say for just a little bit. It's very exciting to be part of this effort that's happening through Hera Hub, and very thankful for Rachel and Tristan for beginning this and starting this, and being brave actually to step out of what may be uncomfortable and start to have these discussions that are really important. For myself, as a Black woman, it's important for me to sit back and listen. Often I enjoy the conversation and the dialogue, but I try to take a step back and listen, because I want to hear from women in the dominant culture, what's happening with them, right? How are they processing all of this? What are some of the things that they want to take forward as we're moving towards transformative change in our society? Because that's been an element that's been missing in racial equity. Often you see BIPOC, Black, Indigenous people of color, are the ones who are, for lack of a better word, carrying some of the burden and explaining, educating, teaching. And this is part of the work that I do. So, it's I have to find a balance for myself. I have to find time for self-care, and at the same time, intentionally take myself out of it so that I can allow the space for others in the dominant culture, in the white culture, to start having dialogue. Because that's very important.
Yeah, thank you for saying that. I really appreciate that, and it's important for us to be having these dialogues just as we are now, whether it's on May 21st or every day. So talk about some of the work that you do professionally, Dhalia.
Sure, absolutely. So I'm a racial equity consultant and coach. And so how I would define that is that my philosophy is really using ourselves as an instrument for change. And that could be on an individual basis, that could be in a group basis, organizational basis. And so I work with a variety of individuals, with organizations, both in the for and nonprofit world, to start to have deeper dialogue, right? When you think of traditional DE&I, it's been very much surface, a lot of check the boxes, and not really getting to the root causes of white supremacy, which is very prevalent in the majority of our institutions throughout our society. So as a consultant, this is what I'm passionate about, both personally and professionally. And so I seek others who are interested in going a little bit further and really serious about redefining their organization, redefining how they navigate individually in their families, in their communities. And part of what I've been doing in addition to that is my Let's Get Uncomfortable Together It's a book discussion series, a professional series. So what I do is I select a book which has topics of racial, some type of racial related topic, and we spend 4 to 6 sessions going over each chapter and going beyond what we read. Wow. So it's reading and then applying. And I always challenge all of my readers. So now that you have this information, now that you're more aware, now what are you going to do about it? Like, what are the steps? What are the tangible steps that you can take in your day-to-day life to start to do different, be better, change the narrative? Because I think, Tristan, you said it perfectly. We can do a lot of talking, and that's really important, because the talking is in the knowledge sharing and the understanding and bringing us together and connecting us together. Then what? So that's what I use the book discussion series to do, is the then what. And often we are digging into books on the history of racism, institutional redlining. We're talking about concepts of white fragility or white superiority, all those types of things that are concepts that, trigger many people in many different ways. And so what I do as a facilitator is I walk with you in that journey.
Awesome. And if somebody wanted to learn more about the book discussion series, Dhalia, what's the best way for them to do that?
The best way is to reach out to me, Dhalia Balmir at gmail.com. You can also go onto my website, which is balmirinclusive.com. And that also has information on my book discussion series as well.
Awesome. Fantastic. Wonderful. Tristan, I'm going to come back over to you, if I may, to talk about your work. You're also working in this space as well, doing very important work. So talk about what you have been up to since you launched your business. Both you and Dhalia are relatively new business owners, which is exciting.
Yes, it is exciting. Thank you, Felina. So I have been a lawyer for a couple of decades and decided to make I guess the word of last year was pivot, or I'm calling it my legal sabbatical, to focus on exclusively, for now, diversity, equity, inclusion, intersectionality, consulting, and training. I always do that with an eye towards belonging. And the reason I do that is because I think it's, like Dhalia was saying before, it's incredibly important that we involve white people in this discussion, white folks, and everybody wants to belong. And so that's the way I do that work. I always use superheroes and comic books, not to be disrespectful, but to help take a little bit of that uncomfortableness, that sting out of the discussion. And so that's what I do. I like to work with large organizations, nonprofits, corporations, educational institutions. And I love training. I love being on stage and being a ham. I don't get to do that right now, but I love this work. And I think one of the things that's neat is that the three of us, we really share that facilitator bond. I think that, and that's one of the things that's so important, I think, about being able to do this work. I mean, I've seen Dhalia, interact with the group in this sense, and sharing hard things, helping people to feel comfortable even when they aren't. I've seen Rachel do the same thing. And I think that's one of the things that is really powerful about the group that we're doing and some of the work that the three of us are not that we're the same, but in that one thread, I think we have a nice consistency.
Absolutely. Wonderful. Rachel, coming over to you to talk about your work.
Thanks. So I'm a former psychotherapist. I was a licensed psychotherapist for about 8 years. And then I felt the calling to kind of do my work in a different way. And I shifted over to what I call being a soul medic and guide. So unlike Dhalia and Tristan, I work more, well, I know Dhalia, you work with individuals some, but I work almost predominantly with individual clients, helping basically high performers with sensitive souls to deal with their secret hidden messes, because everybody has them, and be able to take action on their passions. So my passion is really about helping people do the inner work that is necessary so that they can brave forward. Mm-hmm. And I'm also the founder of Soul School, which is a 6-month group program, basically, teaching the steps and the tools that I have incorporated in my work with individual clients and with myself. So I'm kind of a specialist in the emotional and mental wrangling that it takes to be able to have hard conversations, whether it's about racial inequity or, problems with one of your employees.
Yes. We appreciate the work you do, Rachel. Thank you.
Thank you.
We've all been there.
Yes.
And Felina, would it be all right if I shared my website? I forgot to do that.
Yeah, please do. Yes. Yeah. And we'll be putting info on all the platforms too. But yes, please.
All right. Well, you can find me at metaclusive.com, and all the socials the same at Metaclusive. And then my email is tristan@metaclusive.com. And I'd love to hear from anyone.
Awesome. Yeah. And Rachel, do you mind mentioning?
Yeah, sure. So my name it's rachelalexandria.com, so relatively easy to find. And my socials are various versions of that because I wasn't always the first Rachel Alexandria on places. But if you look for that name, you'll find me. And I'm Rachel at rachelalexandria.com, and also happy to hear from folks. And really pleased and privileged to be working with Tristan and Dhalia, such powerful, insightful, warm, amazing facilitatatops.
Absolutely. So
and you're the only Rachel Alexandria for me, just so you know.
Exactly. That's exactly right. Before I let you ladies go, I want to spend a little more time here talking about the work ahead. We've talked about the work you are doing, the work Rachel and Tristan, again, thank you for leading our community here at Hera Hub, and having these conversations. What's next? What's ahead, both for the sub hub, but also just in your work in general? And Dhalia, I'm going to start with you.
Oh my goodness. So I want to continue to support this sub hub very much as a Hera Hub member, as an individual. I think what is happening here is, oh goodness, the impact. We're not going to realize the impact because it'll be far-reaching. And I know right now, and I don't want to speak too much because I know you're going to probably share, but there's going to be more discussions, and I want to be part of that in presentations and continue the dialogue. Professionally, I will continue to do the work that I do as a consultant through my professional book discussion series. Last year, I decided to kick off a social justice camp for children between the ages 6th to 12th grade. It was a pilot, it was successful, and it was just exactly what these kids needed. They're so brilliant. It's funny because as adults, we hold we're not sure how to navigate in this space, but children, they're ready to talk about it. And so we had some really insightful conversations. And so I will be releasing that again this summer.
Amazing. Thank you for doing that work. And you're right. I am so hopeful for the future because the next generation is just, they're so open. They're so eager to learn and talk. I don't know. I just feel like it's different and I'm excited about it.
Right. And I wanted to add to just one thing, if I may, Felina, especially if you're a person in the dominant culture and you're trying to navigate this space, you know what? You're going to make mistakes. Move forward. Be afraid. Be fearful, because fear, just walk through the fear though, right? Fear is a very natural expression, and that's okay. That's okay to not know. And so that's advice I would offer.
Yeah, thank you for saying that, Dhalia. I appreciate it. I do know, even from, well, not even, especially for myself, sometimes I'm cautious how I say things or phrases I use. And to your point, we should be cautious. And I like what has been discussed in a lot of the co-conspirator sub-hub meetings, which is just ask, right? Just ask. If you're not sure if that's the right phrase to use, then ask. So that's I appreciate that. Thank you so much. Tristan, for you and your work, what are you looking forward to? What's ahead for you?
I think the thing that I'm the most excited about is holding corporations accountable. What we saw last year was a tremendous outpouring of support for the Black Lives Matter movement in general, right? So a lot of businesses put up the black card with the white lettering that said Black Lives Matter. And what I really like to see now is the fact that people are holding corporations accountable. People like myself, but also social activists, racial justice advocates are saying, okay, now what? And I won't mention any corporations that are doing it particularly well in this space, but I am seeing some corporations really literally put their money where their mouth is. So similar to when the LGBTQ plus community, is embraced during Pride Month with all of this amazing Pride merchandise. And these companies are making a tremendous amount of money on my community, but are not necessarily giving any of that money back to the community. So what I've seen this year is, and I think it's a result of the Black Lives Matter accountability, that movement accountability focus, is those companies putting right in their advertising materials, every year we give a donation to X charity. Every year we are funding, Black entrepreneurs at this level. And that is what I'm really excited to see from a corporation standpoint is, we know that corporations, well, they don't have a soul, right? That's not their job. Their job is to make money. But when they can take a stand and court their customers with social policies and social, this sort of environmental social governance is the new way we say it, but we used to say corporate social responsibility. When they can take that stand, like Hera Hub has done, when they can put that out there and be consistent, I think real change in the consumerism way is very possible. And unfortunately, we know money talks. And so that's the approach I usually have is, hey, this is good for your business. And it's bad for your business if you don't do anything. In many ways, it's worse for your business if you put this card up on social media and then do nothing. So for me, in the next few years, I'm really looking forward to how corporations and very large organizations can hopefully drastically change the landscape and continue that support and really earn the loyalty of their customers.
Yeah, absolutely. Well said. Thank you. And Rachel, what are you looking forward to as it relates to some of the future dialogues that the Sub-Hub will be leading?
So we did one that was really popular. We've done a couple presentations led by me and led by another member I'm just like in this moment, Tristan will remind me what that person's name is. Yeah. Anyway, so we've had a couple conversations. I am sorry if you're watching. I know I'm having that moment. Yeah. So we've had a couple conversations about how the rubber meets the road in terms of having hard conversations, because a lot of people are lacking those skills. We just weren't taught how to do this in a way that's successful. Everybody knows how to have a fight, but that doesn't actually produce any results. So I led a conversation, or actually did a presentation on nonviolent communication. One of our other members did one on basically how to work with bullies and try to turn them into people you can actually befriend or talk with. And then we did one that was really well received that was about role playing, because people need to know, well, that's great, but how do you take this information and put it into practice? How do I actually do that? And a lot of our members loved that one. So we're going to be doing that probably a couple more times, some versions of that. Just giving people chances to practice. What do I do when my client says this kind of messed up thing and I want to confront it, but I don't want to start a fight immediately, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
So Sarah Calfee.
Sarah Calfee. Thank you.
So sorry, Sarah.
Thank you.
Rachel.
Shout out to Sarah Calfee. So Sarah and I, we'll do some more role play experiences, because I think that's like, information is great, but putting something into practice is really where people will start to build a muscle memory and know what to do in hard situations like that. And I think for the dominant culture to learn how to not just be a bystander, but stand up for what's right and interrupt the patterns is one of the most important things each of us can learn to do.
Yeah,
absolutely. Well stated. Absolutely.
Interrupt the patterns.
Well, it's so true. I mean, Rachel, a lot of great speakers have said that over the years, right? All that is necessary for evil to triumph is for good people to do nothing. And I think that in this situation, white folks have allowed their discomfort to freeze them. And then we let that be social, emotional justification for doing nothing. And the reality is, whether it's, Ruth Bader Ginsburg or Martin Luther King Jr. or Gandhi, whoever, or Einstein, whoever you want to listen to, that is no longer acceptable. You may not do that. Now, there's lots of people who tell you need to do it in a way that's safe. You might not need to take on the white supremacist who's screaming at the top of their lungs with a swastika, but that's not what we're talking about most of the time. We're talking about everyday, in and out, routine kinds of offenses that happen. Stopping your colleagues from interrupting your Black coworker in a meeting, for example. Making sure that people feel welcome at the table and they don't sit in the corner of the room rather than literally pulling their chair up to the table. I mean, there's so many things we can do that don't make you seem like a rabid anti-racist. Not that there's anything wrong with that in my mind, but so we have to stop doing nothing. Sorry.
We have to tap
I get excited.
We have to tap into that disruptor that's in all of us. It's so important to disrupt in ways that bring positive change. Absolutely.
Yes, that's right. Think about the next time you see some injustice happening in front of you, large or small. Imagine if the person that it's happening to is your best friend. What would you do?
Yeah.
You would do something.
Yeah, absolutely. Perfect way to wrap up the conversation, ladies. Thank you so much for your time. Really appreciate your leadership, the work you're doing, in the Hera Hub community, and then of course well beyond the community. So thank you again, and I look forward to more amazing conversations.
Thank you, Felina.
Thank you so much, Felina. Thank you for your leadership.
Thank you.